At the moment you are born, doctors say you are a new life, while scientists say you are a biological program consisting of 3 billion genetic codes. But few people ask, who wrote this program? Why is it so perfect, yet so fragile? Have you ever thought that the human body is just a temporarily loaded, writable shell? From the Indian view of reincarnation, to the Tibetan theory of bardo, from the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the modern genetic engineering CRISPR cutting technique. All of this points to a disturbing assumption: what we think of as the body may just be an information container where the soul temporarily resides. In 1973, at Stanford University in the United States, genetic recombination experiments had just begun. Researchers have found that when splicing modifications are made to certain chromosomal regions, an unpredictable, cognitive confusion reaction is triggered. The experimental animals begin to exhibit abnormal behavior and even seem to have the memories of others. These phenomena were suppressed for a time. It was not until decades later, when the theories of neural coding and quantum consciousness emerged, that a new speculation was quietly proposed: DNA is not just a blueprint for building the body. It may be a memory recall mechanism. It is like a biological SIM card that can write, read, and even migrate consciousness between multiple bodies. In ancient Tibetan teachings, death is merely a gap of information transition, known as the bardo. Buddhist scriptures record that within 49 days after death, the soul will go through a series of light scenes for judgment, and eventually choose a new carrier to re-enter reincarnation. Amazingly, modern brain neurological research shows that human consciousness can still maintain radio wave activity for up to several minutes after medical death. In these mysterious EEGs, scientists have discovered patterns that are very similar to dreams. It is like a data migration, or system unloading. If consciousness is really a quantum fluctuation, then is our body just a temporary projection interface of this fluctuation? In the real world, this idea is no longer a fantasy. Bill Gates invested in a project as early as 2015. The human gene sequence is digitally stored so that it can be reconstructed, copied, and even personality restored in the future. The report of Microsoft's DNA data storage plan pointed out that DNA is not only the most stable storage medium, but may also become the core interface for future consciousness migration. This is not science fiction, but a technological test of how the soul is packaged. The ancient Egyptians believed that humans had two souls. Ka is the prototype of life energy, and Ba is the spirit of individual consciousness. After death, Ka will look for a new carrier, while Ba will park in a corpse or holy object, waiting to be called. This belief is very close to the contemporary theoretical structure of biological hardware plus data personality. In other words, thousands of years ago, humans may have realized that the body is a device that the soul temporarily relies on. In 2019, a team at the California Institute of Technology tried to use quantum-level EEG scanning. Draw the flow trajectory of a person's subjective consciousness in the neural network. They were surprised to find that in a state of deep meditation, the activity patterns of some brain areas were very similar to the EEGs of people who had near-death experiences, as if they had entered a non-local consciousness channel. The experimental report points out that consciousness may be a data waveform that can be mapped or even encoded. Our DNA is just the executing end of this program. In other words, the body is the device, the brain is the central control, and consciousness is the mobile user. News report clip: a 3-year-old child is interviewed in Israel. He describes scenes he has never experienced before: an explosion, the language of a strange family. In Israel, a 3-year-old boy was diagnosed with abnormal transfer memory syndrome. His DNA test showed that he carried a genetic sequence that was not from his biological parents, but this sequence was archived in a stranger who died in a car accident 2 years ago. Scientists tried to explain it as epigenetic activation caused by environmental exposure, but they could not explain why the boy could describe the deceased's past life and even repeat his hometown dialect. A strongly questioned theory has resurfaced: DNA may store memory snapshots and be activated by the soul at specific frequencies. There is a mysterious tradition in Tibetan Buddhism, searching for reincarnated children. One of the processes is to have the children identify objects from their previous lives from a pile of random objects. Over the past 70 years, several children have been identified as reincarnations of living Buddhas, with an accuracy rate exceeding the limit of statistical significance. Western scientists have hypothesized this irrational choice. Perhaps some unsolved information carrier enters the new DNA structure in the form of quantum entanglement after leaving the old body. If so, DNA is not blank, but a container waiting to be awakened, filled with unsolved programs from previous lives. In the Gateway Process report declassified by the CIA in 2003, an experimental technology for training human consciousness to enter the non-material dimension was clearly proposed. The report states that bilateral synchronization of the brain can trigger a holographic universe model. Consciousness is not confined to the brain, but is a tuner for receiving external reality. If this is true, then the body is like an FM device. And DNA is the antenna that determines which channel you can receive. In other words, who you are depends on which channel of the soul program written in your DNA. In this news documentary, a pair of twin baby girls are examined in the hospital. Background information shows that their CCR5 gene was modified during the embryonic stage. The gene-edited baby incident that shocked the world in 2018 was reinvestigated in 2023. The investigation pointed out that the twins did not show superimmunity, but rather showed extremely unusual synchronization in personality, learning patterns, and even emotional responses. An anonymous researcher who participated in the early editing project revealed that they had embedded a set of personality module reference sequences when designing the genetic template, a brain database derived from a deceased intellectual genius. Is this a coincidence, or experimental evidence of personality reconstruction? If DNA can be written into personality, then the body, maybe it is a biological interface used to run the soul code. A hypnotized middle-aged man described in a gentle tone how he selected his mother and body before birth. Psychologist Michael Newton has recorded more than 7,000 cases of past life recollection hypnosis. Most of the hypnotized people described a strikingly similar experience. Before they are born, they are in a realm of light and energy. Accompanied by a guide, they check out multiple physical body options and ultimately decide to be born into a certain body. It's like downloading an app to a device. One subject described it this way, but the device is the body, and the app is me. Is this a metaphor? The human body is just a container that can be written and replaced? The real me is the information consciousness that is free from life and death. In 2022, an experiment at the Riken Institute in Japan preserved human brain microslices in an environment close to absolute zero and attempted to use AI to reconstruct their neural connection map. When the simulation program ran to the 872th node, the researchers were shocked to find that the model actively awakened a set of known memory images without any input data. Does this mean that consciousness is not just a process, but a kind of existence that can be latent in the structure? If so, aren't the brain and DNA the starting platform of the soul? And the body is just a temporary device that allows this program to be executed. This is a silhouette of the creation myths of different civilizations around the world: the Sumerian Inanna's birth picture, India's boat of Manu, the Mayan ladder symbol, and the Australian Aborigines' Dreamtime murals. In many of the myths of human origin, there is a surprisingly similar structure hidden. The earth is an experimental platform for some kind of celestial beings, and souls are sent here to experience, evolve, and even pass the test. In the legend of the Indian Hopi people, the bodies of each generation of human beings are made up of memories of different galaxies. In the interstellar beliefs of the Dogon people in Africa, the body is just a container of star seeds and will eventually return to Sirius. Is all this already hinting that what we call birth is nothing more than a writing behavior of a higher system? It's like logging into a virtual character, except that the character is flesh and blood, the soul is the player, and the world is a loading program. When we talk about whether AI has a soul, the question is no longer whether it is like a human, but when it has memories, preferences, and subjective choices, can you distinguish it from your sense of self? The development of AI language models can already retain emotional context, episodic memory, and even personality habits in continuous conversations. If we upload human consciousness in digital form, connect it to an AI structure, and then use mechanical devices to build a new body, will the running you still be you? Or have we finally realized the oldest prophecy, the soul, separated from flesh and blood, reshaped the container, and perpetuated itself? In the human genome, more than 95% of the DNA is called non-functional sequences and has long been considered garbage left over from evolution. However, recent studies have found that there are some promoter structures in these areas that will only be activated under extreme environments and special resonant frequencies, triggering unknown physiological or psychological reactions. Some scholars have hypothesized that these promoters may be backup consciousness interfaces implanted by ancient civilizations or even extraterrestrial intelligence, preset in the human body, waiting for some kind of instructions or awakening mechanism. Just like a hidden program in your computer, waiting to be activated by a mysterious button, parts of your body may not be prepared for this generation of you. Millions of near-death experiencers around the world have described similar phenomena. At the moment of physiological termination, they see their bodies from above, hear doctors' conversations, and some can even describe the situation outside the room. Is this an illusion caused by lack of oxygen in the brain, or is it a real withdrawal of consciousness? If consciousness can really exist independently, then it is possible for it to leave the current container and enter another biological device. Perhaps death is not an end at all, but a redeployment after data uploading. Why can't we remember our past lives after we are born? In information science, there is an intriguing explanation. When consciousness enters a new body, it must compress its own structure to adapt to the brain capacity and neural network. Memories, experiences, and emotions from past lives are all sealed up as coded fragments and can only be temporarily decompressed in specific scenarios, such as dreams, hypnosis, and soul resonant states. This may explain why some children can suddenly speak strange languages, some can dream about the details of strangers' deaths, and some people burst into tears when they see a certain place. They have activated past life data fragments, which are evidence of being written into the soul. In a sci-fi operating room, an old man's consciousness is uploaded to a young mechanical body. Both open their eyes at the same time and look at each other. If you can copy your consciousness, but only copy, not transfer, then, which one is the real you? If you can upload your consciousness to AI and live forever, but cannot take away your emotions and right to choose, then do you still exist? Every breakthrough in technology will approach an ultimate question: can consciousness be calculated? If so, then our physical body may never have free will and is just a temporary shell of the soul. And the real us may never really live in this body. According to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, Atlantis not only possessed technology that was far ahead of its time, but also had a soul purification field and a consciousness return channel. Some mystics believe that this describes a kind of consciousness replication or soul transcription device. Humans can transfer their consciousness into the crystal before the body is destroyed, waiting for the next loading. If this is true, then ancient civilizations may have already mastered the writing, storage, and reloading of souls. Are we just forgotten experimental subjects? In modern consciousness science, there is a theory that is accepted by more and more researchers: our body is actually a kind of resonance receiver. Each fragment of consciousness must match a specific frequency before entering the earth to be reincarnated. This frequency is the receiving code determined by the DNA structure. Just as a radio needs to be tuned, humans can only connect to the soul program that matches their genes. So, who you are may not be the one you choose, but the version you are programmed to access. The moment you are born, a program is automatically started, and you never really know who wrote it. Technology companies Replica and OpenAI Labs have been able to build a digital personality twin based on limited data. This virtual body can simulate the user's language style, emotional response, and even predict their future decisions. Scientists predict that in another decade, we will be able to upload our complete consciousness, including preferences, memories, fears, and values, to quantum chips. At that time, you will no longer rely on flesh and blood. The soul will finally be freed from the container, but at the cost of, you may no longer be unique. If souls can be written, if memories can be implanted, if the body is just a device for information to run on, then who are we? Is it this body? This memory? This stream of consciousness? Or a simulation running in some extra-dimensional laboratory? If the essence of life is a programmed experience, then does consciousness still have true freedom? Or, every epiphany of ours has actually been written into the underlying instructions of the soul, waiting to be awakened one day? Everything you see, everything you think is you, may just be a test run by a higher system. We, projected into this space and time on Earth, are just an echo in the code. In the vast background of the universe, lines of code quietly emerge. Begin upload, Human Consciousness v7.3. DNA shell, located. Activation key, -infinity Fi. Execution scheduled, YYYMMDD. End of cycle. Perhaps, we have never had a real I. We are just a written traveler, in a borrowed container, completing program demonstrations again and again. If one day, you suddenly dream of a life that has never existed in your life, maybe, that is your real, original code waving at you. Have you ever felt like you were placed in a body? Do you believe that our body is just a temporary container of information? Welcome to write your opinions in the comment area. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. In the next issue, we will explore who is modifying the code of the human soul.